Hello Power Rangers Lightning Collection fans, and welcome back to Toku Topics. Today I'm continuing my reviews of the Power Rangers Lightning Collection Cross Street Fighter collaboration line with the Morphed Chun-Li Blazing Phoenix Ranger. So this is the second one of these to release out of the four that they're currently making, after the Ryu Ranger figure, which I took a look at in my last video, who doesn't want to focus right now, but this is already a pretty cool one. I definitely like this figure quite a bit. And this is kind of his wave mate here, the Chun-Li Ranger, which is also from the Power Rangers Legacy Wars video game, the mobile game from like 2019 is actually when they put her in the game. They put Ryu in the game, or actually they put like Chun-Li, like the character in the game before she got a morphed form. She got a morphed form in 2019, and then later in 2020 they added both of these morph forms to the Power Rangers Battle for the Grid like console game. So it's really cool to finally see some actual physical representations of these two Ranger forms. I'm really happy that Hasbro's finally made these kind of figures. I think that they could have easily stopped at two of them here. I think they also could have just made these two a two-pack or something, but they are still cool nonetheless here. And here it is, out a little earlier than it was supposed to. And just like Ryu, I got this from a Big Bad Toy Store, who included this little flyer in the box, which there'll be a link to in the description below, because she is still currently in stock as far as I know. So she has a very similar box to the Ryu Ranger one, with the nice figure like render up there. I love this kicking effect piece that she comes with. Super cool. I love that quite a bit. I love this whole backdrop here of this kind of like mansion looking set. I think it's really neat. And then you have this nice artwork of Chun-Li right there. And that kind of same artwork continues onto the side with the Street Fighter logo and the Morphed Chun-Li Blazing Phoenix Ranger. And on the other side, you get this really beautiful artwork of her Ranger form, which is complemented nicely with the Ryu Ranger one. So the two of them look very cool on the sides. I really do like that quite a bit. And then on the back, you have, similar to the Ryu Ranger one as well, you get a nice render of the figure, and then you get this whole kind of setup of like, you know, the figure, it's going to be 5.9 inches, so slightly shorter than a typical one, although that is probably the typical female size, I would imagine. You get the same stand as we got with Ryu, and then you get special effect pieces just for her, just like Ryu had. So very similar kind of setup there. Here's her barcode right there. On the bottom, you get the whole plastic-free packaging and copyright stuff. Then you get that same kind of cool Power Rangers Street Fighter design at the top. So just like with Ryu, I am going to unbox her on camera just so you guys can see the whole plastic-free packaging kind of setup that this has. So if I can actually cut the tape, which wow, I'm failing at every possible way to cut the tape there. And here's what we have in here. So just like with Ryu, we have a very similar setup here with the little Hasbro, you know, safety pamphlet thing. And then she is in this bag right here, which these are reasonably tricky to get out of here without, because I don't want to damage these things. I guess we can raise the cardboard tray up there and then pull the figure out like that. So she's in this nice baggie, which is covered in little Street Fighter and Power Rangers little emblems and symbols, which is really cool. I do quite enjoy that quite a bit. And then there she is, which wow, this one looks really good. I'm very impressed with that one, like just all the paint applications and everything on here. Her design is just really neat, and they did a good job capturing it for figure form. And they did a really good job with the amount of paint applications too, especially for this being a like $36 figure. You would really hope that would be the case, and it is. So interesting here how her, I guess not really, I don't know, not really dragon shield, but her kind of shield bands are just kind of loose on the arm, so they got they're kind of covering the joint, which is a double jointed elbow, which is really nice. But yeah, we're going to take a closer look at her in a minute, so we'll just kind of put her off to the side, and then we have her accessories bag, which just like with Ryu, these accessories bags are a lot more of a thicker kind of material, a lot more of a thicker paper than the actual figure bag ones are. And also these are a little difficult to open up. You can kind of see that design a little bit better here. All the little symbols and Power Rangers logos, the Street Fighter logos, which like I said, I think is really cool. There we go. That's everything now. So let's kind of clean everything up here and take a closer look at the Morphed Chun-Li Ranger. Okay, so here is everything Chun-Li comes with out of the box here, and as you can see, you get some pretty big effect pieces here, which are definitely a lot bigger than Ryu's, which, you know, being the same price point, I feel like you kind of get a little bit more out of Chun-Li here than with Ryu, just because of how, like, thick and, you know, big these effect pieces are. But taking a look at her kind of swappable hands really quick here first, so you get two swappable hands, or just kind of some splayed open hands for her left and right hands. Of course, you get some fists right out of the box, so there is that. And kind of just taking a look at the whole figure in general, it's super nice. I really, really like this one a lot. I love the whole detailing on the helmet there with kind of her little, like, what are these? Not pigtails, but I don't know what those would be called necessarily, but I think they did a great job there. I love the additional kind of goldish brown paint on there that kind of just make it stand out on the shield a little bit with the Phoenix design. Really, really cool. And it's on the back as well. I think they did a good job kind of implementing sort of her skirt design into the figure, or into the whole Ranger suit in general. She does have those drop down legs, so there is that. I think they did a really good job with the nice gold lines around. It's applied very cleanly. Same thing with like the gold trim on here. Everything is applied very cleanly. So I'm really impressed with that. And I love these little pieces here, which don't really move or anything like that. They're like little spiky gauntlets. But it might make swapping her hands a little tricky, because you don't have a lot of an area to kind of grip onto. So I'm probably not going to try to do that in this video, but obviously you can because she comes with swappable hands. But for the most part, her articulation is very good. They did make her thighs a little thicker. It's basically like, it almost looks like they kind of just gave her like typical male Ranger thighs, possibly. I mean, they're not the same. Oop, there goes his box in the background. But they're not the same, I don't think, as Ryu. They might be, actually. I don't know. No, because the boot cut doesn't go up to the same area. So, but they did kind of, you know, make that conscious effort to make her thighs a little bit bigger, as they are supposed to be in this figure, or in this Ranger form in particular. So I do appreciate that. The morpher is really cool there. You have, the coin is a little hard to make out, because on Ryu it's like printed on there, the little Crimson Hawk coin, but here it's actually kind of like sculpted. The whole Blazing Phoenix coin. Also, she's supposed to have like a Tommy morpher where it's like gold, but here it's kind of like mixed into the bronze. So that's a little strange, but for the most part, I think they got the design down with this one pretty much perfectly. I really like it. So, kind of taking a look at her effect pieces here, you get a couple. So you get this big blast one, which is similar to the big blast one that's on Ryu's stand right now here, but it is different. So that's kind of completely, it's completely different in terms of molding, but similar in terms of concept. But I think that is a really cool looking effect piece. I kind of like the whole swoosh and everything that we have going on with that. And then of course, kind of her big main effect piece is this kicking one, which is just really, really cool. So you're supposed to, kind of looking at the box here, have her foot go in kind of the middle section here. And then it will kind of just rest in there. And then so you do get the action figure stand, the same as the one as Ryu came with. So you just get this triangle stand with 3 like Lightning Collection feet peg holes, and then the big peg hole for the other attacks. So I'm curious how well this is going to work, but we'll go ahead, and it's difficult to get the foot to actually want to peg in because it's not wanting to right now. Alright, so I finally got her into the stand. So now the way to do this is, I believe you're supposed to have it facing this way and kind of doing something like that. Kind of maybe bend the knee a little bit, because it's a lot of weight and it's not necessarily wanting to, you see, like she already came off the stand again. It's like it's not really wanting to cooperate. You just kind of have to fiddle with it. There we go, something like that. So I mean, they kind of advertise it to be a little bit not as like far back as that, but I just don't know how you're necessarily going to be able to get that. This is kind of the best I can do with it, but I mean, it is still really, really cool looking if you can get it into like a pretty good looking pose. I love that they've included that effect piece. It's a really neat looking one, and I think it complements Ryu quite a bit. But it is just a little tricky, and I don't know how long she's going to hold this kind of pose, and it also just looks a little strange because I don't have it like, you know, perfectly how it should be necessarily. And also I don't want to, you know, ruin the joints by, you know, trying to have her hold up that really big piece of plastic all the time. So we'll go ahead and put her back there. Now also you do get the same little effect piece stand, so we can clip that in there. It doesn't really make like a clicking noise, it just kind of rests in there. And then there's a little port somewhere on here, right here, as you maybe can see, that is supposed to go ahead and clip in, and of course that made the entire stand fall onto the ground. So that's our obligatory something drops off the ground for a Toku Topics review for today. And then you have this we'll kind of adjust the rectangle, or the rectangle, this is a rectangle guys, the triangle, to kind of be like that, and then you kind of have her look like she's sort of blasting off effect piece. It would look better with these hands, obviously, she's kind of like pushing a blast effect towards Ryu or any sort of opponent or something. It kind of doesn't really want to rest on there. I probably didn't peg it in completely like all the way, but it's a very kind of brittle feeling plastic for that to stand, so I don't want to damage it. But then now you can kind of bring in like Ryu's stand right there and kind of have him with the kind of pushing a blast effect piece. So you can kind of have something like this going on, which is sort of what they were going for with this, which I think is pretty cool. This kind of complementary sort of blast effects things that really gives them kind of that video game kind of feel to them. If you have multiple of the Street Fighters, I really do like that kind of feature a lot. And then using the same kind of stand here, you also have her bird, which with Ryu, you had the hawk, because he was the Crimson Hawk, and she is the Blazing Phoenix. So you do have this Phoenix, which is a little hard to kind of see in there, but it is, it's in there, which is still really, really cool. And then they do have a port right there, which is going to be maybe a little tricky to get to, maybe not, that you can peg in just like you would the blast effect. So you can kind of have her blasting off this sort of lightning sort of effect piece with a kind of a phoenix look to it, which I kind of like the sort of ambiguous look to it. With the hawk here, it was very obvious it was like a hawk flying at it, but that is pretty cool, so I do like that quite a bit. But for that's pretty much sort of just the most of it. That's kind of the gist of the Chun-Li Ranger, the Morphed Chun-Li Blazing Phoenix Ranger for the Street Fighter collaboration. So I think this is definitely a very, very nice figure. I will go ahead and bring in the little turntable to kind of wrap up the review. So we'll have her up there, and then we'll angle the camera. But yeah, I highly recommend both of these figures. If you have Ryu, I would definitely recommend getting the Chun-Li Ranger. If you have just Chun-Li, I definitely recommend getting Ryu. I think these are really cool that they actually are finally able to bring these video game designs, to a physical format, to an action figure line. It just adds a lot of really cool effect pieces for you to use, a lot of really cool like poses you can do with characters that are also in those video games that are just strictly Power Rangers. And I'm definitely interested to see how the Ken and Cammy figures turn out whenever those release, which could be earlier than like the April, I think, release dates they're currently at, because these two are not supposed to be out until January, and here they are in November. So my only downgrades, or my only like downsides to these that I would have to say, is that I do wish that they would come with swappable heads, because they do, obviously you can take the heads off just like any Power Rangers Lightning Collection figure, and they have that new kind of, ball joint to it. So that would have been kind of neat, and since the Ninja Turtle ones came with swappable heads for the ball joints, I think that would have really added something to these figures. But with the price point that they're at, and with the effect pieces that they come with, I think you do get a lot, and you get enough here even without those. It just would have been kind of neat, but that's kind of the only thing I can really say as a downgrade, besides the price, because the price is very expensive for both of these. But hope you guys enjoyed this review of the Morphed Chun-Li Blazing Phoenix Ranger figure from the Street Fighter collaboration in the Lightning Collection. And be sure to check out my review of Ryu, which should be going up on the channel, I believe, on the same day as this. And of course, like I said earlier, you can check this out on Big Bad Toy Store, link in the description below. And of course, until next time, you guys can follow me on Twitter at LiveRangerKey or LandiflicPR, and I'll see you all later.